Hello. Today we are going to study and discuss about and start second part of our cloud computing part, that is cloud computing architecture. So in this cloud computing architecture, we'll discuss about requirement, we'll discuss about the introduction to the cloud computing architecture, we'll see some of the cloud computing architecture, then various kinds of cloud computing architecture we'll discuss, the SOA grid, which are forefathers of cloud computing, and we'll discuss about transactional, on-demand, and distributed computing. So we'll start with requirement. What are the requirement? How does it evolve? The cloud computing basically require scalability, cost efficiency, legal agreement, and business. These are the major requirements of cloud computing, which cloud computing basically focuses on customer demands like scalability, cost efficiency, legal agreement, business. Then what are the changing requirements and rules? So basically IT and software are evolving very fast and these architecture are evolving. So what are the changes in the requirement of IT and software happened? Why cloud computing came up so brightly and it has been on demand? So major issue is data and storage, that is it how distribution of data could be done so that no single point of failure could be there, and how large scalable storage could be managed, high performance computing, that how large processors or large size of RAM could work together. Then transactional computing, like database transaction happens, various transaction happens. So these type of computing should need to be efficient. Then caching, how fast it could be cached, like the images that you fetch from Facebook. These are basically stored in some edge server which is near around your location. Then workflow. Workflow means how the process and sequence of cloud computing should work. That how from moving from one stage to another stage. Then access control, how you can have a better access control. Privacy concern could be taken care of. For example, that some users are restricted to use some specific feature of a service, so that's access control. And now some of the times the access should need to be managed by administrators. Then service level agreement between cloud provider and cloud consumer, so that there has to be fixed set of rules to deal with services. Then changing enterprise and industrial environment in the role of customers, providers, and ISVs. So there are various and fastly evolving enterprise and industries, that there are various customers and there are various roles of provider to deal with, and various ISVs are there, internet service provider. There are various type of like uh, Airtel, Geo. So how to deal with them? So these are some of the rules, and customers are there, cloud providers like Google, Facebook are there. Then there are two type of scaling, and we'll discuss elasticity with those scaling. There are architectures for elasticity. So they are scalable according to two rules, that you keep on adding resources and keep on increasing the computational power. Then it is vertical scale up, which happens in older time, around 40 years ago, 50 years ago. They keep on adding more processing units, more RAM, so that the computing would become faster. Then the process, in such condition, process is assigned to a single computational machine with higher resources. That in older time they are said to be mainframe computers. Then horizontal scale out. In this, you keep on adding discrete resources for computation and you make them behave converged unit. How you make them behave? With some middleware, with some software installed. So multiple machines have the same middleware, same software, and they start mm, collaborating and uniting all together. Then sp- in this condition, splitting of job happens, and multiple distributed machines would actually do the processing at different parts, and they combine the output and produce result. Thereafter, some distributed database systems are there, where you have a distributed database and you have multiple database working together, and they should have an output altogether. For HPC of second option, like horizontal scale out, it's better than vertical scale up. Why horizontal scale out is better? Because complexity and cost of one option of option one means first scale up, vertical scale up is very high complex, and very high cost is required for doing management for that. Means horizontal scale out has simple, and you can add on new devices in parallel. So second option, horizontal scale out, is better than first option, that is vertical scale up, because horizontal scale out is more simpler and cost efficient. Then we'll discuss about various, means introduction to the cloud computing. Thereafter, we'll discuss various kinds of cloud computing architectures. So we'll discuss most basic definitions of cloud computing in this part. So there are basically, this is the reference model that we are going to study. This has been proposed by NIST, you know, which is very good agency for National Institute of Standard and Technology in US. So there are basically five actors. What are these five actors and how they are related in this high level architecture of cloud computing? They have various roles to play, they have various responsibilities to play, they have various activities to be done. There are functions in, they have, these five actors have their functions in cloud computing. That's why they are being defined as five different actors, and they have different roles, responsibility, activities, and functions. So we need to understand the requirement of cloud computing, basically how these actors are being used in this model, what are their characteristics, what are the standards of cloud computing model should have to be. Then what are these five actors? These five actors listed like cloud consumer, provider, broker, auditor, and carrier. If you see in the figure what happens, cloud provider basically do what? Service orchestration, means combination of various service layer like infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. So cloud provider does integration and orchestration, means combination of these three layers. Thereafter, resource abstraction it does. Thereafter, it does cloud service management, and so on. These are various features. You can read about them. These features are business support, like provisioning, deprovisioning, how the configuration should work. These are like how portability and interoperability between various different platforms should work. Then what happens? Resource abstraction is one of the important part and aspects of cloud provider. What they do, the major thing they do is physical resource abstraction. That is, there's hardware and silicon is there, and they have a full bunch of computer working together, machine server working together. These resources are being abstracted through for from cloud consumer. So this is the part of cloud provider. Then we'll discuss about cloud consumer. Cloud consumer is simple. If we are using some cloud, then we are cloud consumer. What is role of cloud auditor? Cloud auditor has a big role to play to measure whether a cloud provider is providing good security or not, whether provider is providing better privacy or not, performance auditing, what is availability of service, what is turnaround time of a service. These all things are being measured by cloud auditor. Then cloud broker, what it does three things. Service integration, intermediation means what it does, it behaves in between cloud provider and cloud consumer. This is what cloud broker do. Then cloud broker also do aggregation of various service, means combination of various service altogether. Then service arbitrage, that how which service is better, which service is not better. So opt for best one. Then cloud carrier is the like Airtel, like Vodafone, like Geo. So what they do provide network to the cloud provider in between cloud provider and cloud consumer. So all these things work over cloud carriers. So what are the cloud carriers? They are companies like Airtel, Geo, and Vodafone, so that they transfer the packets at the tower side. So internet working towers are related to that. Then what are the characteristics of cloud service? The cloud service should have to be on demand self service, as we discussed. It should not fail, it should be available all the time. Then broad network access means the feature of cloud provider should have to be they have the servers with broad network access, so that there is no delay from the provider side. Then resource pooling should have to be better at the cloud provider side. Then elasticity should have to be rapid elasticity, means uptime, downtime, or increase in number of user or decrease in number of users should need to be managed properly, means provisioning and deprovisioning should have to be done properly. Then proper measurement of service should have to be done, like security, privacy, and performance should have to be measured properly. Then we'll discuss each of the actor one by one. Cloud actors. What are these cloud actors? Like cloud consumer, cloud provider, cloud auditor, cloud broker, and cloud carrier. We had discussed some part of them. We'll discuss them, like cloud provider is the organization or person or business company which actually maintains a business with the user. And what they do, cloud provider, they provide some service of interest to the cloud consumer. So cloud provider are basically person, organization, entity that are responsible to provide some service to the user or consumer or interested party. What is cloud consumer afterwards? So we are the cloud consumer who are using these type of cloud. If we become engineer, then we will become cloud provider. If we are a common man, then we are using it as a consumer. And we could be organization, there could be our organization is purchasing whole network. So as an individual also we could use Google account, Gmail, or as an organization also there could be domain could be purchased from Google, so that it could work. And then the maintenance and business and relationship with such users could be done. So these are basically services and cloud provider should work for, means cloud provider works for cloud consumer. And what is cloud auditor? As we discussed earlier, they conduct independent assessment, means they measure what cloud services, how they measure how their system operation works, how the performance, availability, turnaround time should work, what is the security of cloud computing. And thereafter broker. What broker does management of performance. They measure the delivery of cloud computing. They negotiate relationship between cloud provider. They work with cloud consumer. So these are the important thing that cloud broker does: management of various activity, performance, delivery, and services negotiation between relationship between provider and consumer. So broker works between provider and consumer. Then what is cloud carrier? Cloud carrier basically intermediate in between the all these four actors. And what carrier does proper connectivity and transport of packets from cloud service to the consumer. So the cloud provider connects via cloud carrier to the cloud consumer. Then what are we'll discuss about various scenarios. Scenarios are like scenario one, that cloud consumer interact with its broker instead of directly interacting with provider. So in this figure, you can see cloud consumer is interacting with broker, and broker is communicating with two cloud providers, cloud provider one, cloud provider two. Then cloud broker may create new service, means mashup, means it will mix service of provider one and pro- service of provider two, and it will combine, this broker will combine these two services and enhance the quality of these service and provide it to consumer. Then actual cloud provider is invisible to the cloud consumer. Then scenario two could be like this: cloud consumer has a service level agreement one with cloud provider, and cloud provider has a service level agreement two with cloud consumer, cloud carrier. So cloud consumer having a SLA with provider, and provider also have a SLA with cloud carrier. Cloud carrier provides the connectivity and transport of service from cloud provider to the cloud consumer. Then cloud provider basically participates in an arrangement of two unique service level agreements, one with cloud carrier and one with cloud consumer. Cloud provider may request cloud carrier to provide dedicated and encrypted connection so that that SLA2 could meet out. So provider may request some cloud carrier to have a dedicated and encrypted connection in such case. So these are the examples of two scenarios. Then third scenario could be like cloud auditor basically conducts independent assessment for operations and security of cloud services. Then auditing could may involve interaction with cloud consumer and cloud provider. So the cloud auditor basically conducts assessment, means measurement of performance, operation, security with cloud services. Then auditing could be taking place for interaction with various cloud consumer and cloud provider, how they behaves with each other. So these are the important things. So in this figure, you can see this scenario, like cloud consumer is connected directly with cloud provider, and cloud auditor is being accessing that what is demand of cloud consumer, what is service level agreement between these two parties, and cloud auditor is checking consumer details. Cloud consumers then are of three types: software as a service consumer, platform as a service consumer, and infrastructure as a service consumer. We'll discuss these type of consumer one by one. So first of all, we'll discuss what is cloud consumer. So the cloud consumer basically browses and uses some of kind of services, and cloud consumer basically sets up contract with cloud provider. So consumer could be browser, mobile app, and it uses desktop application to access that service. There is some contact between uh, consumer as well as provider, and these contracts are being written into the service level agreements (SLAs), and according to the specific technical performance required and fulfillment of cloud providers. Then SLA would cover quality of service, security, various remedies for performance failure. So these are the various kind of activities that are being written in the SLA. What should be the quality of service? What is security level? Remedy for performance failure. Then various cloud provider are having some list of SLA that are limited and obligated by the cloud consumer, and cloud consumer must accept all these SLA limitations of cloud provider. So these sometimes limitations of cloud providers are being mentioned over the on the SLA. Then cloud consumer can freely choose a cloud provider with better pricing, with favorable conditions. So cloud consumer basically are free to choose what cloud provider they want to work with, and what should be the better price, means which provider is providing better price and what is the favorable condition. So cloud consumer choose accordingly, means you can make your Gmail account or Yahoo account or Hotmail account or Microsoft account. So it's your choice, and because you are a cloud consumer, and you make your account according to your own conditions and pricing. Then pricing policy and SLAs are non-negotiable some of the times. How? Because they are already been fixed in the starting. So these are the factors which actually matters for the cloud consumer part. So you'll see these are the basically cloud consumer. So you can read out them like there are various ERP models are there, remedies are there, various billing services are there, human resource managements are there. So these are SaaS consumers. CRM, sales, finance, social networking, various kinds of collaboration, document management like Google Docs, email services. These are the consumer of, and these are said to be software as a service consumer. There could be some technical consumer as well. They use business intelligence, they use database, and these type of consumer are said to be platform as a service consumer. They could develop some application over it, they can do the testing. These are the part of engineers who do the accessing of platform as a service. Then various application are being deployed, and integration of these services could be done at PaaS consumer level. Similarly, infrastructure as a consumer level, so storage are being used by technical consumers. There could be service management could be used, CDN could be used, various backup and recovery services could be used, platform hosting could be used, various computing could be used. So these are the part of infrastructure as a service consumers. So these are also very highly technical engineers. They use service management platforms, storage, CDN, backup recovery, computation. So we'll discuss first SaaS consumer. What SaaS consumer does? SaaS consumer basically can be organization that actually provides some of its member, like institute or university is there, and they provide some services to the students or their professors or employees. Then these employees or student could access some of the applications like Google Meet, like there are various some services. Then end user could be there and who can directly communicate with such software applications, like students could directly interact with Google Docs and Google Meet, and software application could be administered by some domain expert in the institute. They have some settings and they can configure some application and do the end user processing. Then SaaS consumer can be built according to based on the number of end user they have been using, then the time it it has been used consumed, then various network bandwidths are there that are being used, various type of data storage, and what is the duration of this data storage. So all these things are being the reason for billing such software as a service consumer. Number of end user, time of usage, bandwidth, data storage, duration of storage. These are the reason for billing. Then PaaS consumer basically wants to develop their own application and want to administrator their own application. So they design and implement some application on software. They do the testing of these softwares and they do run and test these application. Like in Google App Engine, people develop Google apps, like Google apps of their own choice and deploy it like a web application with the help of Google Web Toolkit. They develop and they deploy over Google App Engine. Then they publishes such application into the cloud like Google App Engine, and they configure and monitor these application and performance how they are behaving. Then PaaS consumer can be built accordingly. What it does how the billing been done for the PaaS consumer processing, how much processing they are consuming, how much database they are consuming, how much network resource they are consuming, what is the application, what is the duration of platform usage. So all these things are been the reason for billing of such PaaS consumers. So database storage, network resources, application consumed, and duration of the platform usage. Then IaaS consumer, how what are these? These are also very technical engineers. They do the system development, they do the system administration. IT managers are there who are interested to create and installing and managing their own service at infrastructure level, and then they monitor these service with some IT operations. How these IaaS consumer are being built based upon the amount of duration and what are the duration for the consumption of a particular service, how much CPU cycles are being used, what number of hours of virtual computer are being used, what is the volume and duration of data storage, what is network bandwidth consumed for such networking, then number of IP addresses that are being used with certain intervals. So these are the cases and these are the condition for billing such IaaS consumer. Then cloud provider. So what cloud provider does? They acquire and manages large computing infrastructure and they require to develop some applications and services that are being used by cloud consumer, and these provider runs independent softwares and that could provide some services and they make arrangement for delivery of such service to the cloud consumer through internet work or network access. Again, there are three type of providers. What are three type of providers? SaaS provider, they actually deploys, configures and manages and updates some operations of software applications like Facebook on over the cloud infrastructure. Then SaaS provider basically maintains what? They maintain some expectation of service level uh, to the cloud consumer. So cloud consumer directly interact with SaaS provider. Basically, in this case, cloud consumer are common man. And then PaaS providers are there. PaaS provider do management of computing infrastructure. They provide platforms like operating system, like development environment. They provide component for runtime software execution. They provide various stacks, database, and other middlewares. What infrastructure as a service provider do? They provides hardware. They provides cloud software. They provide making of provisioning and infrastructure. For example, they have various physical servers, they have various network equipment, they have various storage devices, they have host operating system, they have hypervisors for virtualization. So IES consumer basically provides physical hardware, and they have various cloud softwares that are being provisioned for these kind of infrastructure as a service. These are physical servers. So what IES provider does, they provide physical server, they provide network equipment, they provide storage devices, host OS, hypervisor for virtualization. Who are these cloud providers? I, I, these are of three kinds. So we discussed about these three kinds. Like what is PaaS provider? Google App Engine is being provided by Google. So in this case, Google is the PaaS provider. Similarly, on Ruby on Rails, Engine Yard provides an environment for deployment of application. Heroku is a PaaS provider. Then what is IaaS cloud provider? Like Amazon provides some images, some storage space, some database they provide. So physical IP addresses they provide. So these are the IaaS cloud providers. Then there are five activities of these cloud provider. What are the five activities of these cloud provider? Service deployment, service orchestration, cloud service management, security and privacy. So what service deployment? They actually deploy some services that are used by the consumers. What cloud provider do? Service orchestration means combination of infrastructure service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Service management means if there is some failure, they manage those failures. Security should have to be there in those services. Then privacy should have to be there in those services. What cloud auditor do? This is third actor that we are going to discuss. After this, we'll discuss about cloud broker and cloud carrier and various scopes between cloud provider and consumer. So what cloud auditor do? Cloud auditor do performance analysis and maintain and measures some standard activities. And basically cloud auditor do security control, privacy, impact analysis, performance measures. Auditing is one of the important factor in federal agencies, like government agencies are there. So they have important features. They do the auditing of such application of providers. Then security auditing can make assessment of security control to determine the extent of which a control are implemented. So how much control are there for providing some security features, whether it could operate independently, whether it can produce some desired outcome or not. There are various verification and compliance of regulations in such security auditing and security policies are there. Then various privacy policies helps government or federal or private companies to comply with some privacy law of these organizations or companies or government. And there are various regulatory governing rules of individual privacy to ensure confidentiality, integrity, availability. Then individual personal information should need to be managed at every stage and of development and operation. Thereafter, cloud broker. Cloud broker do what? It combines and behaves and work between cloud provider and cloud consumer. So basically, broker do integration of service that are complex to be understood by consumer. So cloud consumer is needed, and, and they need cloud broker. So cloud consumer needs cloud broker. Cloud broker manages and uses some performance and delivery access model for cloud services, and they negotiate between cloud provider and cloud consumer. So cloud broker negotiate and works between cloud provider and cloud consumer by providing cloud services to consumer. So what are the three category of cloud brokers? Service intermediation means what it does, it enhance the quality of service by improving capacity and providing some add-on features of on the service to the consumer, so consumer could have better service. So service intermediation, that broker would actually improve some management and access control of these service. Identity management could be improved by broker, performance reporting could be improved, and enhancement of such securities. Thereafter, broker could be of service aggregation. So what it does, broker do combines and integrate multiple service of one or more providers, and they broke and provide and data integration and ensure the secure data movement from one place to another. So these are the things that the broker do. Then service arbitrage, it is similar to the service aggregation, means combination of the various service, but with the flexibility that there are various service providers and they choose from the multiple agency. For example, broker can select a service with the best response time. So best response times could be selected for that service, for service providing to the consumer. So this is service arbitrage, means by choice a broker can integrate services. Then cloud carrier, these are simple like Vodafone, Airtel, or Geo. So these are cloud carrier and they provide access to the consumer through network. Telecommunication companies are there. Other access devices provider are there like Juniper, like Cisco. So these are cloud carrier companies. What they do for example, the cloud consumer can obtain cloud services through network access devices. So what and they can access over the cloud computer, laptops, mobile phones, mobile internet devices. So the Juniper and Cisco devices are there as a router, and various towers are there of Ericsson. So these companies are cloud carrier company. They provide it to your mobile phone. Then distribution of cloud service could be done at normally provided by network and telecommunication carrier through some transport agent. What are the transport agents referred to as? It is business organization that provides physical transport for storage media and as such as high capacity hard drives. So the telecommunication and network provider works in between cloud consumer and cloud provider as a transport agent. So cloud carrier could also be termed as transport agent, and to providing some large storage media and some high capacity hard drives with the physical transportation, means trucks and buses could work together, and they keep on storing some large hard drives and they shift from one place to another. So these are said to be transport agents, means they carry a server in their truck and they transfer data from city 1 to city 2. For example, from Hyderabad, a company is hired and they were said that you have to move out this hard drive and database to the Bangalore. So that kind of transport agents are there. Then cloud provider can set up service level agreement with the cloud carrier to provide service consist with the level of SLA offered to the cloud consumer. So what does it mean? It means that various SLAs are being signed up between cloud provider and cloud carrier so that a specific consistent service should be meet out with cloud consumer. What it means, it says that a scenario is there where cloud provider and carrier are having service level agreement such that they should have a consistent service to the consumer and consumer SLA would be meet out. Then what are the scopes and control of these providers and consumer that we discussed? There are three different level of stack that we had studied in computer science. Basic fundamental computers have three stack: operating system layer, middleware layer, and application layer. So these are the three level at which these three these three provider and consumer works. So what cloud provider does? Cloud provider infrastructure as a service provider would actually provide you operating system and layer for managing resources at the hardware level. So cloud provider provides you operating system layer. So similarly, IaaS consumer would actually use the operating system layer. Then PaaS provider would actually provide you middleware layer. So PaaS consumer would actually use middleware layer. Then SaaS provider would actually provide you applications. So the SaaS consumer would actually use the application layer. So the application layers are basically used by SaaS consumer. Application layer are being used by SaaS consumer. What it does, it does SaaS consumer basically SaaS provider would actually do installing management and maintained by the PaaS consumer and IaaS consumer and SaaS consumers. The application layer are being used by SaaS consumer. What it does, installation management done by the PaaS consumer, IaaS consumer, or SaaS providers. Then middleware layer is being used by PaaS consumer. What middleware do? They basically install, manage, and maintain by the infrastructure as a service consumers or PaaS providers. So there are various level and hierarchies and access control that you have to understand. Then middleware is basically hidden from SaaS consumer. So SaaS consumer do not know much about that kind of middleware. What IES layer do? IES layer is being hidden by SaaS consumer and PaaS consumer. So IES layer is being hidden from IES layer is being hidden from SaaS consumer and PaaS consumer. Then consumer has freedom to choose their own operating system to be hosted. So this is power of IES layer. And IES provider could provide various operating system for management. Then in the next class, we'll discuss various kinds of cloud computing architecture. I hope these all things are clear. Any doubt or any query, then you may ask, or we'll stop this class over here. Okay, thanks all of you. Bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye.
Bye, sir.